Was asked before the game if he was concerned about his squad after losing Kevin Durant. He said, there's been no panic in our locker room or around our team. We know who we are. We know what we're capable of. The ultimate goal is winning a championship, and you're not going to do that in game 65 or 67 or whatnot. So it's not going to get wrapped up in what we think is a normal NBA experience. Max,
Yeah.
Do you believe Curry?
I do, because I do believe he's not stressing it right now, but I am for the Warriors. What I've seen from the Warriors recently, when KD went down, they look ordinary. And partly that's because Steph and Klay went cold. And if these guys are going that cold for that long, that means it could potentially happen in a playoff series. And if that happens, they can lose a playoff series and not get to the finals. So he should be concerned about it. But the reason I believe he's not, Stephen A., is the same reason I see him sometimes play nonchalantly in the fourth quarter of Game 7 of the finals and turn the ball over with a pass. Steph Curry's attitude is the attitude of a great shooter. He has to have the utmost confidence that it's going to go in. If he gets cold for a while, he's still shooting it. Eventually, it'll go in. That seems to be his attitude. That's why I believe him when he says he's not anxious about it. But as a fan watching, I am, and I think he should be too.
Well, listen, he may say that because shooters have that mentality. As long as the ball is going in when it leaves my hand, I'm not worried about it. And he knows he's not going to continue to shoot 27% from three-point range or 41% from the field. He's just the greatest marksman that I've seen, and I just don't see that happening. But at the end of the day, I also think that if he's thinking about more than just himself and he's thinking about the team, which is what his comments alluded to, he's most certainly worried because you don't have Kevin Durant and Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut are no longer there. The combination of the absence of those three individuals means that this Golden State Warriors team is not the same. So if he isn't lacking confidence, it's only because he firmly believes that Kevin Durant is going to return. But if there's any doubt as to whether or not Kevin Durant is going to return and return healthy and ready to go, don't tell me that Steph Curry is not worried because he knows what awaits. They got expectations, but the flip side to it is that Houston is coming, San Antonio is coming, and even though they're coming, more importantly, the Cleveland Cavaliers are waiting. They are already loaded, and they are raring to go. And this Warriors team, as presently constructed, without Kevin Durant, is not going to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers.
No way without Durant.
Even with him, well, I still would pick Cleveland.
I understand that, but with Durant, I'd probably go with Golden State at this point. But without Durant, forget about getting to the finals the way they're playing. They squeaked by at home against the Philly team without Embiid. They had to come back down 15, make a fourth-quarter comeback because the shots aren't falling, and they not only miss KD on offense, and you would think with more touches, Steph and Klay would get more consistent. They've gotten less since KD went out, but they miss KD on defense. It's a different kind of defense than they had last year, but he made a huge difference on defense, his length, his athletic ability, and his willingness to play it. Without him, they are defensively a bad team.
And it's certainly not a foregone conclusion, as we all expected earlier. Coming up, we're going to stay with hoops here. Allen Iverson, Stephen A's boy.